Right, let's talk baseball.
Let's do it.
I had said, Andy, and you'll be glad to hear this. Brandon's World has turned into a little bit of a baseball show. Um, we have done so much on the World Baseball Classic. The fact that we're talking baseball this early into the show tonight, I have said, I've credited Rob Manfred that I think he's done a tremendous job with the importation of these rules, and I'm excited to see the ABS challenge system implemented this year. But I think the fact that the World Baseball Classic was on a Tuesday night got 10 million viewers, which was more than every game outside of Game 7 of last year's NBA Finals. It beat every game of the 2023 World Series between the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. I mean, I just think it's showing that baseball is growing. They got this new TV rights deal now, which is pretty much going to have baseball on some national platform every night. Baseball is in a really good space right now. It's just obviously that could all come crashing down at season's end.
Yeah, I think, you talked about stuff that Manfred's done. I think the implementation of the pitch clock has opened up the doors for them to be able to do things like this because they don't have to worry about, usually don't have to worry about games taking 3.5, 4 hours because
Yep.
pitchers want to sit there and pick their nose, between pitches and stuff. And I think the fact that the game has sped up so much, I think last year, my assumption would be the average game length was like probably 2 hours and 35 minutes, something like that.
And I was against it at first. I'm going to be
I was
totally
too.
clear and totally honest. I thought it wasn't going to work. I thought it was going to be a complete disaster and ruin, the stare down at the 3-2 pitch in Game 7. But, like, I was telling a buddy this the other day. You go back and watch a baseball game just from the 2022 season when, the season before the pitch clock was put in. And now you watch a baseball game now, it's two different sports.
Yeah, it's a lot more tolerable now. And I think that's been such a good addition. I also think that challenging calls has been such a good addition for the game. And there's nothing worse than watching your favorite team on the couch and like the replay clearly shows that the call was wrong, but there's nothing you can do about it. I think implementing the ABS system this year is going to be, a pretty good success, and it's probably only going to get better moving forward. You're going to see a lot of players who benefit from it. Most notably, I think the player with the most impact for the ABS system is going to be Stephen Kwan of the Guardians. The amount of calls that he gets called strikes on him that are outside the dish, off the plate, I mean, it's appalling. It's every night he gets rung up or first pitch ball comes in off the plate and he gets called a strike. And that guy has one of the best eyes I've ever seen in Major League Baseball. I mean, he knows a strike or ball better than anybody else throwing or catching or calling the pitch.
The other thing that you're gonna get is strategy because you can only use it two times a game. And
Right.
is the manager gonna let, a hitter, even decide? I know Stephen Vogt has talked about like Tanner Bybee, he's not even allowing him to even have a chance to challenge, but just because Bybee will challenge every pitch.
Right. I think the guy that's throwing it is probably a little bit more emotional about the call than the guy catching it. I think,
Yep.
if I was a manager, my play would be leave it up to the catcher. Um, and I would say leave it up to the batter unless they've already used one. And it depends. Like if nobody out, nobody on, and first pitch comes in and you think he's wrong, like what are you doing challenging that, right? You still got two
Right.
more pitches.
Yep.
But
Well, again, that all comes down to the strategy. Are you going to save it for the seventh inning and on, or there's a spot, where it's bases loaded? Maybe it's one out, a 2-2 count. You feel like that pitch is wrong, and it could change the entire momentum of a game.
Right. And I think I don't know. I hate to say it because I do like the fact that they have umpires in the sport of baseball, but when it comes to calling balls and strikes, they've made it so that there is no more gray area. It's white and black. ABS has made it so either a pitch is a ball or it is a strike, and there's no debating. There's no debating, oh, a guy slides into second and the glove touches his foot at the same time he touches the base. Now we have to
I
decide.
hate that. That is, and I just, that is not the intention of replay for all sports, by the way.
Right.
I made the argument, and some people told me, oh, I 30 seconds is too quick. I said, okay, move it up to 60 seconds. If in 60 seconds you can't tell if a play should be overturned, it has to stand. There should be a literal clock ticking down on you making the decision.
Yes, I agree. But the point I was going to make with whole ABS thing is, if the MLB has found a way to perfect every ball strike call, I mean, you're essentially eliminating the need for a home plate umpire. I think most people would agree. Why would we only, if it comes out and we can find some data and says, umpires on average miss, 7 and 15 calls a night behind the plate. It's like, why are we even letting that happen? If we know they're wrong, we might as well just let the computer call it.
So I've always been against the robot umpires, but I think that with the technology evolving so much now, I think the ABS, if they could get it right, I would be actually for it now. I think it's very similar to what we said about the pitch clock, where it's like, oh, the pitch clock's not going to work. Oh, you can never have robot umpires. It's like, well, we're showing you we can, and we've been wrong before, so I hope we're wrong again.
I know. But, one of the things that I want to bring up, because we did see it in the World Baseball Classic, I think it was the final strike call that the US had
Yep,
against the Dominican
the
Republic.
Dominican. Yep,
That low strike that ABS showed it, 2 or 3 inches below the plate. But if you go back and you look at how ABS measures balls and strikes, I believe the metric they use is they measure the height, and width of the ball as it crosses the middle of the plate. So what you need to start doing, right, is you need to define what does the middle of the plate mean, because a 12-6 curveball can easily cross a batter's front knee in the strike zone and cross their back knee 3 or 4 inches below the strike
good
zone.
point. Yeah,
And so what at that point, what do you do, right? Because the plate is the strike zone. And if it crosses the front half of the plate in and the back half of the plate out, how do you make the call?
yeah.
Right. And so I think that would be one of the bigger challenges. But aside from that, I mean, I think, they can even start, right now I've been watching a lot of tennis, and what tennis does is they have the robot umpires as well, where it
I've heard
calls
about this.
balls in or out. And as long as any little sliver, it could be one fiber of the tennis ball, as long as it touches the line, it's in. Right. And so I think with the ABS system, you can get really, really finicky with, like, one little fiber of the ball nicked the outside corner of the plate that should be a strike. In reality, 99.9% of the ball was off the plate. How do you make that call? So, it will take some rule book manipulation to try and, as long as all 32 teams, what is it, 30, 32, as long as they all
30.
decide,
Yep.
yep, we agree the strike zone is this and this. I don't see any reason why, if it's successful this year and next year and moving forward, why we can't, you know, it doesn't even have to be obvious, right? We can still have an umpire behind the plate and just have the robot saying the call into their ear in real time, and they just make the call on the field.
Yeah, but that kind of feels like why even have the umpire there outside of have the umpire be in some location? Because that was my other worry is like if you're gonna go to the robot umpire and they were talking about, well, there's gonna be no umpire behind the home plate. Well, then okay, who makes the call when there's a play at the plate?
Yeah, you keep them back there. I think just hand off the ball and strike responsibility to a robot and have it whispering the calls in their ear in real time.
Or maybe, I mean, maybe you just have a screen or something digitally where the robot umpire can display it, and then maybe they make another box or something where the home plate umpire is near home plate, somewhere to like third base, where they're just
Right.
in position to make a play.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the judgment calls in the field, there's no need to tamper with that. I don't think, guys calling safer out, sliding into second, guys calling, fair or foul. I think all of that is pretty fine.
I mean, we already tinker with that a little bit though when there is a close play and we do go to the replay and it's like, well, was his ball maybe touching the glove? And it's like, yeah, this is not what replay was meant for.
Right. I agree. But I think the difference between all those calls versus the ball strike calls is the ball and strike call is very black and white. Either ABS picks
Yep.
it up in the strike zone or it doesn't. When you get into did his tip of his cleat touch the base before the first baseman, got control of the ball in his mitt? That's maybe up to a judgment call. And there's no real way for any kind of robot system to determine
Yeah.
that because, and that's where you have to leave it up to actual people to make the call and then confirm with replay if we have a challenge. But I mean, it's with how good we've seen the ABS system become. I just find it hard to believe that, pitchers are probably going to want an ABS system. Hitters are probably going to want an ABS system. And I just don't know why the MLB would not keep going if it's going to make the game more accurate.
So I thought Fox did a tremendous job with the WBC, promoting it, marketing it, getting all the stars. It felt like a major event. And maybe it was because we were coming off the NHL and the men's and women's US hockey winning it. But I think it just had more to do with fans want to watch baseball.
Right.
And there is talk about, well, with the next WBC, whether it's going to be in 2029 or 2030, with the Summer Olympics being in 2028, do they maybe think about tinkering the WBC? Do you move it to All-Star Weekend? Do you suspend the season for a couple weeks? Like, I feel like this year was the start of something that could become a major, major event every couple of years.
Yeah. Let me tell you one thing I thought was super cool about the Classic is that as fans in the United States, we were able to watch games that mattered to us that were being played in other countries, which I think was very cool.
Yeah,
You fans of soccer, right? American fans of soccer. It's a regular thing to turn on Peacock and watch Premier League games that are being played in Europe, right? France, England, whatever.
yep.
And that feels normal. Just like us watching baseball in an MLB stadium within the United States of America feels very normal. And I think it was super cool that we got to experience a little bit on TV what it was like to go watch a baseball game in all of these other countries that have where baseball is their biggest sport, right? I think Japan now for sure baseball is the biggest sport, Korea too. I don't think they played any games in Korea, but it was super cool being able. I actually went to a baseball game in Japan, which was super cool. I went to one of the Hiroshima games when I was there a couple years
So,
ago.
did you
But
go to
to
the Tokyo Dome?
no, I went to I can't remember what stadium it was, but it was whichever stadium the Hiroshima Cart play in.
Okay.
So I went there, and the environment was incredible. But especially all the Latin America countries, the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, like their passion for their country and their passion for baseball, getting to see some of that on TV, that was amazing. And I think it helped show how big the game has grown globally. I mean, it's no longer just an American sport. Not that maybe it always hasn't been, but it's frequently coined as the American pastime, right?
Yeah,
Baseball.
I mean, I would
But to
argue it was the American and Dominican and maybe a little bit of Japan and Venezuela. Now it's all over.
It's all over. I mean, you had the Cleveland Guardians number one overall pick, Travis Bazzana, repping Team Australia, and they won a couple of big games. Like, I mean, that I thought that was cool, man, being able to see all the different crowds and all these different countries and how much that tournament meant to them. And then, even seeing Team USA lose, which kind of sucks, but it would have been nice to see them win. Seeing a country like Venezuela, who their baseball population is so much smaller than ours, be able to compete and win against the big bad
Yes.
Marvel, Avengers, Team USA, the Judges, the Harpers, the Schwarbers, the guys who you're like, it almost felt like the inverse of US versus Canada hockey.
Yeah, I
US,
agree.
the little guy, comes in and they win against the world superpower. So yeah, I thought it was a fantastic program. I thought the tournament was awesome. I had a ton of fun watching it. I mean, I was watching the most random games you could ever think of.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah, and I thought it was a ton of fun.
I mean, I mean, we were talking about it in our chat. They put the games on Tubi for God's sake.
I know.
Yet people were watching it. I mean, and again, the fact that it was on a Tuesday night, 10 million, and that isn't even include like, but that's just US numbers. 10 million people on a Tuesday night watching baseball. That's World Series numbers in March.
I know. It's crazy, man. And I also think that the format of one game, one night, winner
Yep,
take all is fantastic because you don't
yep.
have that in baseball. I mean,
Uh,
kind of had it for a moment in the wild card scenario, but
yeah, but it never felt the same because it's not the penultimate. It's not the championship.
right,
And of
right.
course,
So I
we
think
got
that's
it. Why we got it last year in Game Seven. I mean, that Dodgers Blue Jays series, an all-time World Series that will
oh,
never be
phenomenal.
forgotten. Um,
Phenomenal.
and so let's transition now, though, and talk about the guards and
Yes, sir.
preview their season a little bit. You know, again, teams ever flow and change throughout the season. There's going to be guys called up. We're really excited about this summer, but I think this guards lineup, for the most part, again, it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's more talented than the team that made the World Series in 16, but this may be one of the most talented, at least on paper, opening day rosters they've had in a while.
Yes, I was gonna say I was looking at the odds last night on FanDuel, and I think in the Central, the Guardians have the third best odds. You know, five teams. I think they were number three, third best odds to win the division. And I remember I was sitting there last night. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, does this not happen every year, where the Guardians are projected to just be the most average team on earth, and then they somehow come out and make the playoffs, win the Central. I mean, they compete hard. They play, you know, the Guardians' way of baseball has always been, at least in the last couple of years, just to play very gritty and smart baseball. And I think they do a very good job of that. I think Tito handing the reins over to Vogt has really, I think Stephen Vogt's done a really good job at keeping the same culture of playing small ball, playing the game the right way, having fantastic defense and pitching support, building the bullpen, which is one of the most important things in baseball. But I think I can't get over, man, how we talk about it. You got to bring it up when you talk about the Guardians. They just don't spend any cash. But I think finally we're at the point where our prospects, our top, five, six prospects, are teetering on the quadruple A MLB level,
Yeah.
and we're going to see a huge jump in the contributions from our farm system
Which
this
is
year.
why I think they literally did not make any moves outside of Reese Hopkins in free agency towards the start of spring training is because they got to find out about these kids. The only way you're going to find out about them is if you let them play, and there's going to be uh, basically a line of who's going to get the opportunity because you know this about baseball. The hard part is when you're platooning or trying to get different guys in. Guys need rhythm. Guys need to play every day.
Right. Right. And you don't really have that luxury when you're trying to figure pieces out. But I think at this point we've pretty much solidified what the regular roster is going to look like. I think we'll see obviously Juan Jose. I'm fairly confident Chase DeLauter is going to come in on opening day, and that'll be his spot, you know,
Yeah.
for as long as he'll have it. I mean, the stuff we've seen from him this spring has been nothing short of phenomenal. I don't know how much you've been keeping up with DeLauder, but I was talking with your brother and I was like, I think DeLauder might be the best prospect since Francisco Lindor in our organization.
Yeah.
I mean, Jose wasn't exactly a huge prospect. He
No, he
kind of just
wasn't.
came
Not at
up.
all.
No, he came up through the system. Lindor was kind of his, he was standing in his shadow a little bit, and they came up
Lindor was always viewed as the guy.
right. And I think at this point, Chase DeLauder is far and away the biggest prospect. I mean, Bazana got going 1-1. That's one thing, but DeLauder is ready now, and I think he is going to come in and make an instant impact. I think we're going to see a big jump from Manzardo. He clearly has a ton of power. I mean, I would expect him to have somewhere around 30 home runs this year. I think
That would
DeLauder
be
could
nice.
I think DeLauder could have 20 or 30 home runs this year. The exit velo we've seen off of his bat is unbelievable. I mean, we're seeing 100 plus mile an hour ground balls coming off his bat regularly. I think the Rocchio and Arias duo in the middle. I think we talked about this last time, but having the two of them paired together isn't the long term solution. And I think that's why Travis Bazzana might make his appearance sometime this season and try and
Yeah.
replace one of those two guys.
Well, that and potentially Juan Brito too.
Yeah, him. I mean, we have George Valera, who I don't think is going to start the season with the team. I think he's going to be on the IL along with Hunter Gaddis, maybe to start
Yeah.
the year.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Hunter Gaddis is a pretty big piece in that bullpen, and Valera had a decent impact in the playoffs last year when he came up and was swinging it really well. So I think, I also caught wind that Austin Hedges might start the year on the IL. And people were saying that might make way for Cooper Ingle to make his appearance
I've
earlier.
heard about this kid.
Yeah, Cooper Ingle. I mean, he's a fantastic prospect, dude. Just a really good catcher, a really good hitter. I mean, I don't know if he's MLB ready yet, but we saw some good stuff out of him in the spring. And I mean, if they're ready to bring him up and get some time in, I don't know what David Fry's situation is anymore. I don't know if he can
Yeah.
still catch.
I mean, is he going to be utility guy that they could maybe use like a DH, maybe third base, not necessarily catcher?
Yeah, I think our biggest problem is we have a lot of very okay guys and we have a lot of very good, promising prospects, and
Yep.
trying to find the balance of, do we continue riding with these decent ball players in the pros who we know are going to hit 230, 240 for us, or do we try and make the transition to someone younger and let them prove why they should be here? I mean, we saw it last year with Daniel Schneemann. We saw it with Angel Martinez.
Yep.
Both those guys came in and they played really important utility roles at crucial times. I mean, Schneemann was in and out of the lineup during the
He
playoff
played almost
push.
every position.
He did, and he was a huge part of the lineup during that playoff push at the end of
Yeah.
the season. And so was Angel Martinez. Had a lot of really key at bats. I've seen some good stuff out of his bat too this
Yeah.
spring. So I think the problem that we're running into with the Guardians now is a good problem. We got a lot of young talent. We have a couple of, studs in the lineup right now, both on the pitching staff and with the bat in their hand. And we have, a couple guys who are MLB ready. We got the Lauder, Manzardo. I mean, Manzardo at this point, he had a full year of service in the MLB, but he's really still a work in progress. He's a prospect, right? He hasn't had two full seasons yet, I don't
Yeah.
think. So we'll see what we can get out of him. I think he's going to be a really decent ball player. So
I they need to get more production out of the catching position, whether it's Bo Naylor or somebody else. You can't. I know the offensive production for catchers isn't great anymore, but you can't have a guy hitting. I know Bo got hot at the end of the year. He had a good WBC. I hope it carries over. Most of the year last year, he was hitting what, 150, 175?
yeah, on a good day. I mean,
Yeah,
that has been the struggle across the league for a long time now. I mean, you have the anomalies like Cal Raleigh, Salvi, but I mean, at the end of the day, all we can ask for is for a guy, our middle end of the order guys to be hitting 220, 230, 240,
yeah,
just getting on base and rolling that lineup over so Stephen Kwan can draw a walk and then a
yep.
pitcher has to come in and face Jose and chase the lauder.
My one worry about this team, believe it or not, please tell me I'm wrong and call my concerns. I don't trust Kate Smith in the closer's role yet.
You know, We, I think part of that reason why you feel like that is because we got so used to Emmanuel Clase, and we have to realize that Cade Smith kind of got thrown into that position last year, and being in that position is a completely different mindset than a late middle reliever. You
It
know,
is. No,
he
I've compared the importance of closers to the importance of kicker in football. You don't
right,
think you need them, and then they will ultimately decide. I mean, in baseball, they will decide 40 games of your season.
right. I think Cade Smith has the stuff to be a very good closer. If that's going to be his role this year and that's his established role, then I think he'll come out and he'll do just fine. The
Yeah,
dude's
I
got,
also don't think like I don't like the idea of Cade's a closer a couple nights, Gaddis when he comes back closer a couple nights. I think the great baseball teams generally have your ninth inning guy, your eighth inning guy, your seventh inning guy, maybe your sixth inning guy if you have a deep bullpen, and you build it out that way. There's no rotating of roles, if you will.
right. And just to ease your mind a little bit, if there's one constant that we've had in Cleveland since I don't know, well before 2016. It's been that you can count on the Guardians to have a top of the league, top half of the league pitching staff, if not top 10, if not top five, all around pitching staff. They are far and away, a top three team in
And
developing
once
pitching
don't
talent.
they stay healthy now? I mean, last year everybody was out before June.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you got to think though. I mean, part of that, you have to you put a lot more pressure on your pitching staff when your offense isn't producing. And one of the,
Yeah,
the Guardians' problems over the last 5 years has been the offense just hasn't produced at a level that is efficient enough to keep you winning.
especially early in the season. I mean,
Yes.
and here's what's going to happen this year because the Guardians arguably have the toughest schedule in April in all of baseball to start.
Oh, yeah.
They got Seattle, they got the Dodgers, and they got the Cubs first three series. I think it's four with the Mariners, three with the Dodgers, and three for the Cubs. But they start 3-7. People are going to panic and they're going to turn them off until July.
Right. If you look at the pitching matchups too, I think there is a very real scenario where we face Sasaki, Otani, and Yamamoto in that 3 game stretch in LA, and it's like,
Ooh.
dude, what are you even supposed to do there? I mean, you just bend over and take it, I guess. I don't know.
Speaking of the Dodgers, well, I said this last year. They proved me wrong, obviously. I know everybody wants to talk about, oh, they should be the favorites to win the World Series. People, they were a literal strike away from losing the World Series. So, listen, they're the favorites. Are they going to win the World Series? Who's to say they can? Who's to say they will? I don't know. I think that's a great thing about the MLB postseason.
Right. Anything can happen. I mean, if I had to make a bet on a team, life or death, to win the World Series, I'd put it on the Dodgers. I think they're the obvious choice, but again, you're right. They were right there at the end of the season. Blue Jays had them, and it's just that's baseball, man.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the game on any given night.
I don't know about Toronto this year. They're still a good team, obviously. That was such an emotional toll that series took on them. I don't think they're going to go complete, Baltimore route and go completely in the cellar, but I could see Toronto stepping back a little bit this year.
That's the problem you see, with these small market teams is the windows are really, really small for baseball.
I mean,
Um,
we saw it in 16, and we all thought our 17 team was better. They went on the 22 game win streak, but then bam, they run into the Yankees, and look what happened. So they really have not gotten back to that level since.
no, they haven't. And it's very hard to recreate what you had, especially when, Paul Dolan's sitting there and he's like, well, I was a half inning away from winning the World Series and I barely spent any cash. I did it all with my prospects that I farmed and I built, and
And
he
we
thinks
did
he
it
can
on the
probably
back
lose
of
to you.
freak starting pitchers. Bauer tore his finger up with the drone accident. You had Corey Kluber and Josh Tomlin was
Yeah, I
pretty
mean
much the starting staff in the World Series.
that staff was unbelievable, man. Our pitching staff, like that's what I'm saying, dude. Like it's been 10 years straight, and we've always had some
Yep.
sort of Cy Young caliber guy in our
Yeah.
rotation.
Well, and I'll tell you what the WBC proved, and I've been telling everybody this. You can have the greatest, baddest lineup, 1 through 9 of the best nine hitters in baseball. Great pitching will almost always beat great hitting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I don't want to talk anymore about Team USA and the WBC. It's just they were in a position they should have never been in. A couple of times they were in a
Yeah.
position where they were at the mercy of everybody, and it's just I think a lot of it is your mentality, and you know I think teams like the Guardians and the Blue Jays and teams that haven't had success like big market teams or other teams, baseball is an incredibly emotional game. Every t-shirt you see at Kmart, baseball is 90% mental, 10% skill.
Yep.
And when you're the underdog, especially in a game like baseball, you have such a mental edge because you have nothing to lose truly. And I think that's why, even though you have such a disparity in the top versus the bottom salaries in the MLB, you consistently see small market teams making playoff pushes and getting into the next round of the playoffs and potentially making it to the World Series because it's such a mental game that it's very easy for one little thing to set you off and propel you and your team to play better.
So I've been asking my baseball people this, Andy. Obviously we know what could be coming at the end of the season with the new CBA or not, and the fight between the players union and the owners. But is there a chance that all this talk about, oh, it's going to be so bad, oh, there's going to be no season, that it's just overblown, or is this going to be a real fight? And what is truly the battle going to be?
It's going to go one of two ways, and it's going to be go one of the two extremes. Either nothing's going to happen and the MLB season will continue as normal, or there's going to be a massive lockout.
See, that's how
And
I feel. I think
I
it's
think
either.
that's what I think is going to happen. I keep telling my friends, enjoy this last baseball season because you won't have one next year.
So you really do feel like next year there will not be a baseball season at all.
If the Dodgers win the World Series again this year, the lockout is going to be astronomical. I think we're already at that point because I was actually looking at the numbers today. I think the Dodgers payroll is $384 million and the Guardians payroll is $77 million.
Ugh.
The Dodgers are paying more in luxury tax. The Dodgers are paying twice the Guardians total salaries just in luxury tax.
Now what's the second? Do you have the numbers like where are the Yankees at compared to where the Dodgers are at?
I think the Yankees are 3 or 4. I think the Mets are 2.
That actually makes sense, yeah.
Um,
That what a, by the way, every year I always hear about this is going to be the Mets year.
yeah, so it's Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, Blue Jays. 5 teams. And if you want to know how crazy the disparity is, the Dodgers, who are number one in spend, compared to the Blue Jays, who are number five in spend, the Dodgers are spending 30% more than the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
The Dodgers are
that's a
spending
lot.
$400 million dollars, and the Blue Jays, who are number five on the list, are spending $300 million dollars.
Wow.
The Guardians, who are number 28 on the list, are spending $97 million, dollars, one fourth of the Dodgers' payroll. That is why MLB owners will push very hard for a lockout and they'll want some sort of salary cap. I think what I would be intrigued about is a salary floor. Make Paul Dolan pull out his checkbook. I can't remember. Someone was telling me today the rules around F1. And I believe the way F1 does their salary cap is the top 3 members of your team, their salaries do not impact the cap. The rest of your team does. So,
That's
for
interesting.
example, the Guardians, let's say your top 3 salaries are Jose Ramirez, Stephen Kwan, Tanner Bybee. Those 3 guys wouldn't impact the cap. So essentially, you can say, hey, every team, you have the ability to sign whoever you want, 3 guys at whatever price you want, but the rest of your team has to be under this threshold. And I think that's a way for you to be able to say, hey, let's divide and conquer, split some of the stars up around the league, but satisfy the taste of everybody wants to go after that big star.
Yep.
Now you won't have to worry about spending extra money on that big star because they don't impact your cap. So I don't know. I think we'll see something coming before 2027. I'm very nervous that we might lose the entire season. I mean, it has gotten a little bit out of control when you have teams whose, you have 2 teams in the league whose tax bill is higher than the bottom 3 teams'
Total payroll.
payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like when you have stuff like that happening, it's time for a change, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not complaining just because my favorite team's a small market Cleveland Guardian, Paul Dolan, who's a cheapo. That is an issue.
Uh, well, I'll tell you one thing that I don't want them to do, and that's go to the NBA model, which is this second apron and completely restricting. I mean, I think the NFL cap obviously has its loopholes, and every cap has its loophole. But like, I don't know. Baseball with a salary cap would be interesting because we've never
Yeah, it
seen it.
would. And I just think the thing about football is, yeah, the salary cap works really well there because one position on the field is worth more than everything else.
Yep.
That's not true in any other sport. In basketball, Wemby is what, a center? And he is just as valuable as Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a point guard, right?
Yep.
If not, it
No,
just
you're
because
right.
they play different positions. In the NFL, everybody's biggest spend usually should be on their quarterback, right?
Yep.
And the quarterback plays the most important role on your NFL team. Baseball, who is it, right? Because Aaron Judge might be the best pure hitter in the league, but is he more valuable than a Jose Ramirez who plays a different position? Both of them
You're
are
right.
incredibly valuable, right? So there's no one position. Tariq Skubal, for example,
Yep.
best pitcher in the world, him or Skeens. But it's like, would you take Skubal over Judge? It depends on how your team's built.
Yeah. No. Good point.
So, yeah, we'll see, man. I'm excited to see what happens this season, though. I think the Guardians should be a better program. I think there's going to be another one of those times where they just catch fire in the middle of the year for no apparent reason and just ride that into the playoffs and then probably get bounced by another team. I mean, it's going to, we've seen this story play over time and time again, but I think they are building something right now that I think is going to amount to something pretty big in the next couple of years.
Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.